So Canada just lost to Croatia this morning. That was a heartbreaker. I didn't see that coming. Of course, I should have expected Croatia being the defending runner-ups from the finals 4 years ago against France in Russia, 2018 FIFA World Cup. Canada, obviously fresh, new legs, young faces. Alfonso Davies, just a minute and 6 seconds in, gets the first goal in Canadian men's football history. International soccer, football. So that was great. Obviously that was a huge moment for us. I feel like we had the momentum going for about half an hour, but the control just wasn't there. The communication, just too many sloppy plays. They were kicking it out of bounds way too many times. There weren't any crisp passes being executed compared to the Croatians, which they were able to dominate control, and that was the deciding factor. Not to mention the increased pressure that they had on their defense. Canada completely overwhelmed. Obviously, didn't have an answer. You can tell by the scoreboard. You can also tell just by how the first half ended, because they had a great, you know, they were in a great position. Obviously, up 1-0, but if you're dominating and you're trying to have the kind of the position that you want to have, you have to carry that out. And when you're up 1-0, you have to defend that lead. And Canada was just chasing the entire time. In Belgium, maybe that is what, in combination, the energy that they had chasing, in combination with not knowing how to defend properly against an elite offense in the Croatians. This was demonstrated because Croatia was on a mission. They knew what they needed to do. They want to win. They want to get to the next stage. They've been here before, and this is something that the young guys in Canada weren't prepared for. They weren't used to. They weren't used to having the lead and being in a position where they felt like they could relax for a second because they weren't chasing the whole damn game like they were against Belgium. So, bunch of new things coming into place here. But I do think that Canada played pretty well for what they could do. Uh, just devastating to see that they're already in. Uh, they started. They were just one of the bright new faces that we saw that we hadn't seen in so long. 36 years since Canada's been in the World Cup, the biggest sporting event in the world for soccer, at least. Like, just a huge opportunity. And now they're done. Now they can play Morocco and hopefully get some more goals and feel a little bit better themselves. Leave on a good note. They'll be back. They'll be back. The future looks bright. I'm just happy that Team Canada was able to do this year. Um, Nice to see a draw. I was really hoping that Spain wasn't going to go as destructive as they did. Excuse me, against Costa Rica. Spain destroyed Costa Rica 7-0, and they were able to tie with us Germans 1-1 today. Great comeback just to keep the slim uh, World Cup hopes alive. As you can see, I have a crest on my jersey that says that they won in 2014, and I'm really proud of that. Not the same team that we had. I mean, that was a great team. I'm very proud of them for what they did, and I don't think they have a whole lot to prove because that wave of players is come and gone. It's time for the new guys. What's coming next? What does the future look like? So, yeah, the World Cup is continuing. It's been on for about a week now. Some great matchups. We saw Argentina yesterday against Mexico. We got Portugal tomorrow against Uruguay. So still a lot more, plenty more soccer to come. It's going to be great, guys. It's going to be great. Tune in, watch as much as you can. Now over to the National Football League, because it is Sunday and we've been watching lots of football on top of the soccer as well. We gotta be focusing on the Seahawks because they're trying to just get somewhere, some kind of stability going. Unlike the San Francisco 49ers in that NFC West division, the 49ers won today. They beat the Saints. Seahawks lost to the Raiders in a pretty much a momentum shaker, a team shaker. rough game. Just nothing was really going well for them offensively. They seemed out of sync. Kenneth Walker couldn't get it going. Lots of turnovers from both sides. And Josh Jacobs single-handedly just forced that game for the Raiders. I truly believe that if a team is showing throughout the duration of the match that they are the better team, they win the game. Sometimes it's a lot harder than it is to admit, but you can't deny that the better team that played better throughout the duration of the game, the continuity and the performance and the balance, the contrast from the opposing team, they deserve to win. That's what we had here in Vegas versus Seattle. So it was a crazy Sunday. Yeah, it was a crazy Sunday across the NFL. Cleveland beat Tampa Bay. Divorced Tom Brady finally lost. That was a bit of a doozy game, a little sloppy. Same with the Chiefs and the Rams. I watched a little bit of that one. There were two games that ended on game-winning drive, touchdowns, and two-point conversions. So Jacksonville came back to beat Baltimore 28-27. And the touchdown at the end of the game by Jacksonville, they were trailing. They went for the two-point conversion, and they succeeded. And this also happened in Arizona. Arizona was playing the Chargers, and the Chargers had a game-winning drive, and they scored a touchdown at the end to give them the edge. And then they ended up winning the game 25-24 with that additional two-point conversion. So both of these two things happened. It's not a huge concern to me. I think if Seattle had it on the line or the Vikings had it on the line, please just kick the extra point. Let us go to overtime. If you go to overtime, you don't lose. If you lose the coin toss, you don't lose. There's a lot more things to build up which contribute to a low-risk situation. Conversely, the high-risk, high-reward, which happens with the two-point conversion, you're essentially just relying on a lot of luck and everybody just being on the same page. You cannot afford any mistakes whatsoever when these things happen. So I would certainly, I think going for it more so on fourth down is a great way that the NFL can continue on in the sport and how the league is changing. Players and coaches are getting more comfortable with different sorts of plays, so they're becoming more and more familiar with those. At the same time, the two-pointer, a lot of teams succeed that way and they get the win. They just want to go all in, put their chips on the table and see what happens. Like, we got a great shot. We got all the momentum. Their defense is looking sloppy. A lot of factors come into play here. At the end of the day, I just think that's a high risk, high reward, and I would rather go with the low risk, high reward, as I see it. So yeah, lots of NFL action. We've got a bunch of hockey as well that's been happening this weekend. We got the Canucks who downed Vegas. They took them down 5-1 last night. Tampa Bay also beat St. Louis on Friday, I think it was. So both those teams turning around. Maple Leafs are turning around. They're getting better. The Kraken are getting better. A lot of teams are trying to find their footing. And the Canucks are finding their footing, in my opinion. I think that you can't really go any worse than the start that they had to the season. Because what happens is you got the teams that start off on great streaks, and then you got the teams that, start off, 0-7 like the Canucks. And both teams can't keep that up. So what happens is they end up similar together. And that's exactly what happened with Vegas losing. They are 16-6-1 now. And the Canucks are 3 points behind St. Louis in the final wildcard spot. I feel like I've been saying this for the last few weeks. The Canucks have been just so close. Because they are. They need, St. Louis, Edmonton, Calgary, all these other teams that are in the mix. They just need them to lose a couple of games. Canucks win a couple of games. They're playing the Sharks right now. And they have a 1-goal lead right now. So it's wide open. It's awesome to see. I love it when I see teams that are new or teams that are in perhaps marginalized areas like Arizona and Florida, or new teams like Seattle and Vegas. I like to see the home teams especially. I like to see the fans. It's just so great to see the cheering, the support for the team, because that is huge, especially in places, like I say, that don't have as many fans, or the fan base isn't as well known. People aren't as familiar with the sport. I like to see the NHL grow and expand. Not every market is like Edmonton, Toronto, the Bruins. A lot of these teams I'd say the Canucks have a pretty great fan base. The Tampa Bay Lightning have a pretty great fan base. So that's great to see, the consistency there. Obviously, it has to do with the team's production, but at the end of the day, it's just great to see teams, especially like in Seattle, very close to Vancouver. I think they got a great fan base going there because there's a lot of people that care about hockey. And very similar to here in Vancouver, very much so. And I want to go down there and see a Seattle game. I can watch the Lightning twice a year now instead of just once. So that's good to see. But yeah, plenty more World Cup action going. We're going to be talking about some World Cup stuff all this week, seeing what happens here, as well as keeping up with basketball and the National Hockey League, and getting ready for Week 13 next week. So lots to come. It's going to be good.